Hey everybody, Jeff with the Camper. Today I'm going to be doing the rear differential gear oil change on a 2007 Ford F350 dually. I'll show you a couple of things what you need to know before you get started. Alright, so you're going to want to come over here to the door sticker and look up your axle code, which is right there. So mine is the 4N. I'll show you where to find what that means. I go to blueovaltrucks.com. Here's the actual website address. Scroll down and find your axle code from your door sticker. So in this list here has all the different codes, and newer trucks are down toward the bottom, the Dana axles. And there it is right there. The 4N. It's limited slip, 410 gears. And then over here are all the specs of the axle and the gear set and what type of fluid you should use. So my particular truck has the Dana 80, which is the 410 limited slip. I've got the camper package on this truck. So it's going to depend on what type of rear end you have. So you can purchase the correct gear lube. The gear oil is going to be different between the 10.5 inch used for the single rear wheel and the F350 trucks or the Dana 80 rear end. So also going to be different for the front end. I've got a 3/8 inch drive socket. I've got a short 3-inch extension with a 9/16 socket. Got my ultra black RTV to seal the cover after I've drained everything and cleaned it. I do have a torque wrench here. It's a 3/8 inch drive. Got a larger 1/2 inch drive ratchet, and that's just to crack open the fill plug. Before I do anything, that's what I'll do first, is crack open the fill plug, make sure it's accessible. Hammer and just a putty knife. You can use a chisel just in case you have to pry a little bit to crack open that front cover. And of course I've got a drain pan and some rags and stuff under here because I'll need them. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is crack open this fill plug. Make sure that you do that first on any front end or rear end gear oil change. You don't want to drain all your fluid out and find out that you can't get new fluid back in. So first thing you do is crack that open. It also helps to vent as the fluid drains out. So crack this guy open. So on the fill plug, you can, this is magnetic, so you can kind of see. Go clean this off with some carb cleaner. So we'll start loosening these bolts up all along the back cover and open up our drain pan and get all the old gear oil drained out of it and get it cleaned up here. So these are all 9/16. I'll just loosen these up all the way around. I broke these open with a breaker bar. They were tighter than I thought, so. Some of them have studs where the brake lines are attached, so you'll need to make note of where those go. So what I'll do is I'll take all these all the way around this. I leave this very top one in, so I start on these. There's one on the very top here, and I start on this one, and then I go here, 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 here. This is my last one. I'll remove this with that top one still in the hole, but loose. And that way, if this does happen to pop, you're not going to get gear oil splashing all over you too bad, and the cover will stay up in place. This particular cover is not coming off real easy, so got my my putty knife. I'm just going to start working in this one bottom corner here, and then just kind of working and very, very lightly pry outward. Not very much, but just a little bit. You don't want to bend this cover. Even though it's pretty heavy steel, you don't want to warp it at all. So just grab a corner right in here and just give it a few taps. And it should just pop. You know, you don't need to pry back on it too much. Just kind of let the oil drain out. It might take a little while, but this is pretty thick stuff. But just give it a good pop. Right there. There it goes. I'll let that sit for a little bit, get all the gear oil drained out, and then I'll remove the cover and get it cleaned up. Alright, so we'll let that drain. Clean it out real good with some carb spray. Clean the all the old RTV sealant off of the cover. Get everything all cleaned up, all the mating surfaces cleaned up really well. And then put a new bead of RTV on there and get the cover put back on. So another thing, when you're spraying the carb cleaner, or if you decide to use brake cleaner or whatever, spray that off, you know, spray all the gears off, and make sure you get down in here really well and get a rag or some paper towels and get all that sludge and all that goop that settles down there, get all that cleaned out, and you know, clean your mating surfaces really well. Make sure that they're completely dry of any cleaners or anything like that before you you know, put the cover back on with the RTV sealant. Alright, so on this cover, you want to take a razor blade and scrape all of this old RTV sealant off. You don't want to have anything on there. Just take it and nice and flat. Don't gouge the surface or anything, but just take it and get a nice clean mating surface there. And then you can take your carb cleaner or your brake clean and spray out the inside and outside of the cover and get your new bead of RTV Ultra Black put on. Alright, so once the cap is nice and clean, scrape all of the old sealant and everything off of that and clean it really good with some brake cleaner or carb cleaner. Just re-inspect everything to make sure you've got all the little pieces and stuff out of the cover, and now we can go work on the actual differential mating surface. So we'll do the same thing under here. We'll scrape really well with the razor blade. I'm going to go ahead and cover up the gears with a couple of rags. I'll spray really well, scrape, spray until I get that whole mating surface clean. I'll wipe everything down really well with a rag and let it dry for a couple minutes before I put my RTV sealant on the cover. We'll go ahead and tuck some rags up in here. Alright, so now that we've got everything sealed and covered there, we can go ahead and start scraping with our razor blade. We've got all of our surfaces on the pumpkin cleaned really well with the razor blade. Now I can just go in here and just kind of lightly spray with the cleaner and wipe it with the rag. Okay, pull all of our rags out. Give it one last good wipe here. Don't get anything in there. That's good and clean there all the way around. And then I cleaned out this reservoir here too. That way you don't have any gear oil coming out while you're putting your cover back on. So make sure you get out anything that's still dripping down in the back. It's going to go down in this little reservoir right here. So clean out that reservoir before you put your cover back on with your new RTV. So now, get this thing without smudging too much, just like that. You can use the drain or the fill hole, put your finger in there. That gives you some place to really grip it. So all the holes are lined up. Before I give it a big push, I'm going to put bolt on the bottom. Make sure that you don't put too much sealant around the holes. I mean, you want to put enough, but not so much that it's going to get on the end. Be careful when you're running your bolts in, because you'll hydro lock your bolts with sealant, and you won't be able to get the right torque specs. Okay, so then what I'll do here is I'll just tighten these up just a teeny tiny bit, just so they start to grab. All right, so once they're all even, make sure, just go through and make sure that they're all snug. Not tight yet, but just snug. Just so they're starting to smash out the sealant. And then go around in a star pattern one more time to tighten. All right. Just going back through and checking all the bolts to torque. 30 foot-pounds for the cover bolts and 25 foot-pounds for the fill plug. I'm going to go ahead and let the RTV set up. All right, well, it's the next morning. Giving this RTV about 18 hours to dry, to cure. So I'm going to go ahead and get the gear oil put in on the rear differential. I'm going with the 75 W140, and that's the limited slip, so it's got the additive already in it. I'm going with the 140 because I haul the camper all the time, so it's going to be a little bit better, a little bit more heavy duty for that. In the front, I'm going with the regular 7590. So I'm going to go ahead and get that stuff installed and check for leaks, get everything torqued up as far as the fill plug goes, and we'll take it for a test drive. All right, so I like to bring all 4 quarts of gear oil down here with me, along with the torque wrench. All right, fill plugs out, make sure it doesn't get in the dirt, and then just start. All right, so when it starts running out like that, you're full. Of course, just all you got to do is just put your finger on there a little bit just to make sure. But as soon as it starts dribbling out, you're full. Get your fill plug back in and torque it to 25 foot-pounds. Get your fill plug torqued to 25 and all your bolts are torqued to 30. Just make sure that you clean up any gear oil that you might have spilled when you were filling it, anything on the bottom, because you're going to want to take it for a test drive and then come back under here and check for leaks. Okay, well that's it. Took it for a test drive, checked for leaks, nothing's leaking, we're all good. Really simple job. This maintenance is very critical that you do, especially if you tow a lot. But this oil should be changed probably about every 30 to 40,000 miles if you're not towing, and I usually try to do it about every 15 to 20 hauling or towing often. So I go about every 15,000 miles for the rear. I can let the front go a little bit longer if you've got 4-wheel drive. So 50, 75,000 miles even for the front diff before you have to change it. My front was done probably about 40,000 miles ago, and that oil looked still beautiful when I drained it out. So anyway, hope you guys found this helpful, and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Hit the like button, please. Really helps out the channel, and we'll catch you on the next one. Later.